Good evening, everyone. Great to have you back. On this week's show, in our 4 Down segment, we welcome Pierre Bernier as we preview UFC 181, Hendricks versus Lawler 2. We discuss Jean Pascal. Is he a pretender or a contender at 175? And last but not least, I face off against the very best strength and conditioning coach that's out there, Jonathan Chainberg. It's happening right here, right now. It's time to read between the lines. This week's 4 Down segment is brought to you by Deodora Canada as we preview the much-anticipated UFC 181 card happening this Saturday, Hendricks versus Lawler. As always, we invite you to have your say, share your opinion with us over at facebook.com/RBTL Sports, as well as on Twitter @RBTL Sports. We welcome to the show Pierre Bernier. You're a ring announcer. You've worked on ESPN, TSN, Showtime, you name it, you've done it. Great to see you. I look forward to your feedback.
Great to be here.
To your right is Pierre Evans. Just great to see you, RBTL contributor. Welcome back. Great to see you.
Nice to be here.
And last but not least, David Hurley, great to see you.
Glad to be back.
Should have a little bit of fun. All right, gentlemen, the UFC, state of the UFC, first and foremost. A lot of people have criticized the fact that the talent or the cards are a little bit diluted because there's so many cards that are out there. Do you agree with that? Do you think that the state of the UFC is healthy right now?
Yeah, the UFC this year has had a rough time. I mean, it's not as bad as 2012.
One of the
2012,
toughest
the
years.
injuries were really hurting the cards. As of right now, you're going to see the cards from here till probably March or April of next year will get much, much better. We got 2 championship fights on this card, and it should be getting better every card from now on. Dana White said it. He says, I know, I'm sorry, it is what it is, injuries have happened.
There's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do on that
It's part of the
aspect,
business, the way they train, unlike any other sports, they have to do a little bit of everything.
But on the flip side, though, there's a lot of cards. There's been different concepts, different, you have your Fox events, etc. There's been a lot of different cards that have been put out as well. This is not only due to injury.
Right, but there's
a lot more of them that are happening.
Right, but they're also free cards sometimes. I mean, and that's something the UFC never really did in its history. Now they're pushing and promoting their product, but they're doing it free cards, so they're not charging everyone for these pay-per-views where they have not even a championship fight. So at least Dana White's doing it properly. But now, like he said in his latest press conference for the fight, he just said, listen, guys, I apologize, but like I said, you can't really do anything about injuries.
No, there's not been much
but it's going to get loaded for the next couple cards.
See, the UFC, as far as the product that they've been offering for decades now, they offer a great product. It's highlight reel material on a constant basis, and it's very hard to keep up with that all the time. And you know,
the bar's set high.
The bar's set high,
really
and
high.
public demand is there.
Well, speaking
but I
of,
think they give a great product.
Speaking of the bar being set high, Hendricks and Lawler is as high as it gets.
Two.
Yeah,
it's a pretty damn good fight.
Yeah.
There's a lot at stake right now, not only with the repercussions of this fight, but this is a huge statement fight for Hendricks, a huge statement fight for both, actually.
Lawler
coming back.
might be his final shot.
Yeah.
It could be.
Robbie Lawler.
Well, you know what I like what Lawler did? I mean, as soon as he lost to Hendricks, he picked up 2 fights. He knocked out Ellenberger, and he beat out...
Just doesn't seem to go away.
Yeah, but he
Doesn't go
got
away.
a decision
He's
against
on
Matt
Matt
Brown.
Tough fighter.
So again, he kept fighting while Hendricks is out.
Yeah.
So this is what I like for his advantage on this weekend's card. I really like to see Hendricks. I see him going down in this fight because he's going to be rusty.
I like to see the adjustments that they made from the first fight, from this fight. Robbie Lawler used a little bit of a boxing technique in the last fight. They stood toe-to-toe. They fought really in the pocket. Hendricks' first fight coming back from a bicep injury. What kind of adjustment he has to make, because it's a tough fight to get back to as your first fight back. So
your background obviously is in boxing, but when you look at a matchup of this magnitude, do you look forward to certain types of fighters? Is there a certain fighter for you specifically that stands out because of the boxing element? Because Hendricks, of course, is known for his stand-up game, right?
He's a banger. I'm a big GSP fan. But you know what? What I like about the UFC product is, I mean, extremely often the cards are stacked. You always have an entertaining evening ahead of you, and that's what I like. I mean, you have more to look for than just a main event per se. You have plenty of matchups on the card that are interesting and to watch and to look forward to.
You mentioned GSP, and of course there's so much surrounding Georges St. Pierre. And again, every card, it feels like anytime Hendricks is fighting, Lawler's fighting, Rory Mack is spoken about.
Rory Mack's coming up next.
And Rory Mack, exactly. That's one of the implications I was talking about Rory McDonald potentially, or will be fighting the winner of these two going at it.
Yeah.
Is GSP guaranteed a title fight? Do you think the GSP is guaranteed a title fight if he decides to eventually come back, if he does decide to come back?
I think if the proof is there, if he's performing, he's doing well, and you know, he moves himself into a position to deserve a title shot. I think.
But would you give that to them right now? Would you give GSP a title shot right now?
I don't think so. No.
Why wouldn't you give him the title shot? I mean, he is the defending. He was a defending champion.
the
He laid his
biggest
belt.
draw.
He is the greatest draw the UFC's ever had.
Oh, for sure. I completely agree.
I mean, I
as
find it
far
hard
as
to believe that
drawing
you
power.
can't have GSP give a title. I mean, what do you think, Pierre?
I think if he wants a title shot, it's only if he wants it, I'll give it to him. Biggest draw, greatest welterweight of all time. Why not give him to him? It's just a matter of if he wants it or not. at that
And that creates a dynamic, though, because if he does want the title shot, and let's say we extrapolate a little further, Rory McDonald becomes champion. Let's say, for argument's sake, he doesn't want to fight him. He's come out and said he wants to have
he
that.
said
They're just
But
not going to fight.
Right.
But listen, I mean,
The almighty dollar, right?
Yeah.
I hate to ruin
No,
every
this is
Wednesday.
no.
I spoke to a source close to the UFC, and he said it's going to be very, very hard to see GSP come back. He said the financial money that he's made in his career is probably enough to set him off to the sunset and not really care
Times
about
10.
Exactly. Yeah. But if he does come back, it's for love of fighting. And right now, the fact that he's been out for close to a year, the love of fighting is not there right now.
But what I'm saying is you know, he's been out for I mean, a substantial amount of time right now. You want to bring him in right back, and first thing you do is put him into a really hard fight like
But
that.
it's a matter of bottom line.
Exactly. I think it's not going to come from GSP, because from a
come.
GSP standpoint, looking at the decisions he's made, everything's been micro-calculated. I don't see him saying, I want to challenge the best right away. He might even want to work his way back into that shape.
Are they going
right?
to let him do that? Though?
Exactly.
And
That's an excellent
They're
point.
not going to let him do that.
Yeah, I don't think Dana White's going to really give him a cupcake schedule. I think Dana White was a little bit frustrated at how it ended. He definitely wanted to see
Not really the
a
patient
fight.
type.
Exactly. He wants to put him in the ring with the
He's gonna put
Lions
him-
right away
Well,
and see how it goes.
You're right. From what I've seen, I mean, that never happens in the UFC because you always get great matchups, best going against the best very, very often. I mean, and the product is made and is presented to the public in that way. I mean, they want to keep the fans entertained. And how do you keep the fans entertained? Well, then you give them the best possible product out there.
Well, the fans will certainly be entertained this coming weekend as we preview after the break. I want to change gears a little bit. I want to talk boxing. Especially want to know your feedback about Jean Pascal's upcoming fight. We'll find out if Jean Pascal is a pretender or a contender in the 175 category. Stay with us. All that and more happening right here on Reid Between the Lines.
I'm a veteran, I'm 32, I know what to do, so I'm very and really focused on my job December 6th, and after that, after I take care of business on December 6th, I'm going to aim on 2015.
Is Jean Pascal a pretender or a contender at 175? This week, courtesy of EliteSportsTours.com, we're talking JP and his upcoming fight this Saturday. You don't want to miss it. If you're expecting a Mickey Rourke type fight, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a beauty. We welcome back Pierre Bernier to the show, Pierre Evans-Just, and David Hurley. Gentlemen, welcome back. All right, huge matchup on Saturday. Huge implications for Jean Pascal specifically. Pretender or contender at 175?
I think Jean Pascal is definitely a contender. I mean, how could you not be? Two great fights with a living legend, Bernard Hopkins. Beat Chad Dawson. Definitely a
He's
contender.
done it before.
But people have criticized his bravado. People have criticized in the sense of his mental game and have a little bit too much swag, if you want to call it that way, if I'm trying to be politically correct. But do you think that now, I know you covered him in media day, and he seems to be a little bit changed from a mental standpoint?
Oh, he's been in the game for a while. He's been champion before, like you mentioned. He's fought Chad Dawson
Always,
before.
always
He's always
interesting,
had the
always
confidence,
exciting.
but you can tell by seeing him that the confidence now leads to he's more mature. He mentioned that he has his daughter. He's a father. You can tell that his attitude's changed a little bit. And on top of it, he has a good corner. He has Rogers in his corner now. So he's more down to earth, but he always keeps the same level of confidence. So that's important.
I want you gentlemen to listen to what Jean Pascal had to say when Pierre asked him about his legacy. Have a listen.
I'm not fighting for money because boxing is my passion. I love the sport. I love to be a boxer, but right now, because I made money, I'm boxing for my legacy. I want to leave my mark on this earth when I leave the planet. I'm fighting for legacy. I'm fighting for history. That's why I'm always trying to face the best, like Kovalev, Stevenson, Bernard Hopkins, Chad Dawson, Jacques Konu. At my level, it's all about the legacy. It's all about the history.
He seems more confident. He seems more down to earth. There's no doubt there's been a change. It was a great question, by the way. What do you think about Jean Pascal? Pretender or contender?
I think Jean Pascal's a pretender, and it hurts me to say that because Jean Pascal is a Quebec fighter, and I always like to see them do very well. I mean, he beat Lucien Boutte, which was a decision. He did. Boutte looked a little slow in that fight, but his wins. I mean, his win against. His win against Dawson was a headbutt that really kind of gave him the edge. Against Bernard
He was
Hopkins,
winning the fight.
He was winning the fight.
He was winning the fight, but the headbutt really gave him the edge that pushed him over the top. And then Hopkins, he didn't really look that dominant. The draw, he didn't win most of the rounds that he thought he had won. I thought actually Bernard Hopkins had won that fight. So Bernard Hopkins should have won both those fights. I have a hard time seeing him do well, and if he has to win this fight and go against Kovalev,
guys, but remember the Froch fight? He went down there to fight Froch and put up
he
a
gained more
tremendous
from
fight
losing than
with
actually
little
winning.
experience.
He did win.
As a young fighter. I think all.
And you can see what happened to Bute when he actually made the same trip. I think he's definitely a contender. He's won the title before. He's the #1 contender for both belts, for Stevenson and for Kovalev. And that's saying something. That means that he's actually recognized as a threat. And that's not nothing. And he knows that. And his opponents know that as well. You can tell that that Kovalev might be interesting in fighting him. Stevenson, on the other hand, we've heard the back and forth on social media lately.
He's going to fight. I think Kovalev is going to have more of a chance of fighting him. I think Kovalev wants this fight because I think Kovalev is going to knock him out, unfortunately.
And I think it's a style issue, too. I think Jean-Pascal is a contender, but with some reservations, because it's very often a style issue when it comes to boxing.
Never clear cut.
You look at the trifecta of Chad Dawson, Jean-Pascal, and Bernard Hopkins. Some of them win, some of them lose, depending on who you're facing.
Though, at the end of the day,
fought Adrian Diaconou with one arm.
At
one point.
Styles make fights, and I believe that Jean-Pascal right now, he's in the driver's seat. Because both fights, let's say he fights Stevenson or he fights Kovalev, the biggest fights are made through him. And he's aware of that, and you can tell.
But yet the public wants to see it.
At media day, he even mentioned that as well. The biggest fights are going through him because
but
at the moment.
That's funny though. But that's interesting because, sure, he's a huge draw.
Yeah.
But when you poll the public, right,
He's
the public doesn't want to see.
If you poll the U.S. public, obviously,
no, but
he's
if
not.
You're saying he's a huge draw. He wasn't even the main card on this fight. Bute was supposed to be the main card. So he's not that big of a draw if you think about it.
He's a bigger draw than Stevenson.
Well, Stevenson's the champion, and I think if Stevenson fights him, Stevenson might even knock him out too.
But
Stevenson's got some
punching
power that he doesn't have.
Is it a matter of the fight? Are we talking about him being a draw or him the fight
I could
itself?
put in my 2 cents.
Absolutely.
One thing we're not looking at is Jean-Pascal has a terrific chin.
He took
a lot of punches.
You're right. Absolutely right.
What makes you think? What makes us all think that Adonis Stevenson
just gonna walk
could
through
knock
him.
him out?
Because Adonis Stevenson hasn't taken as many punches in his career. He's still a little bit younger in his fight game, although by age he's older.
Yeah, but
he still has a little bit more.
And lost to. I mean, he did lose. He did get knocked out by Donald Boone, which is not nothing. It's definitely a stain on his record, and even though he's champion now, it's significant.
I like
what I heard from Jean-Pascal when he was asked a question by one of the reporters about Adonis Stevenson, and he's like, I'm not thinking that far ahead. I'm focused on this fight. And I think that's a wise thing. And I think a couple of years back, you wouldn't have heard that from Jean-Pascal.
That shows
maturity. How exciting, though, changing gears is it for Quebec boxing? You look at Interbox, you look at Groupe Yvon Michel, Jim. Well, it's a great time to be a boxing fan in Canada, in Quebec specifically.
Let's look at this undercard on this particular night on December 6th. They've got a great undercard. They've got Eye of the Tiger management fighters, one of the youngest Canadian amateur champions on the card, Stephen Butler, Schiller Hippolyte, WBC Continental of America's champion. I mean, it's a great card. On the same night, David Lemieux is fighting Barclays Center, New York City. And the fight will be shown live.
Quebec boxing is becoming one of the most prolific fighting cards. I mean, we're growing fighters.
Well, is holding a professional card on December 19th in Repentigny on the same night as a World Championship card pro in Quebec City. We've never seen this in Quebec, never.
But I think
two on the same night.
I think it's very important. If they've learned any lessons from the Bute and Pascal fight, that should have been made years ago. And when it was made, it was very profitable. It made a lot of money. It was a big marquee fight, but it was not the fight that it could have been when both of these guys were. They were champions and they were at the top.
That's a long-going argument.
Now you have, and if you take a look at what's going on with Mayweather and Pacquiao, I hope that Interbox and Groupe Yvon Michel have learned from these mistakes and they try to
give the fans what they want.
They give the fight. We understand that Kovalev and Stevenson's a big fight, but in terms of the drawing power that they can have in Quebec, two local guys, they have to make that fight.
Before we go, it's a great point. Great to welcome you to the show. Thanks for stepping up on short notice. Great. Hopefully we'll have you back. I know you've got a lot going on. Where can people catch you? In the ring and doing your thing.
Well, you could check out my website, pierrebernier.net, and always on Facebook. I look forward to talking with fight fans, MMA fans, boxing fans. Facebook, you could find me under my name, and I'd love to hear from the fans out there.
The face-off segment is up next. Can we get you through a little boxing match, a little boxing call for us?
Ladies and gentlemen, after the break, we will be right back with the face-off segment.
Hey, what up, guys? It's me, JP, J to the P, Jean-Pascal, and right now you're watching Reid Between the Lines.
Every champion in their respective field needs to be surrounded by the very best trainers and coaches. And there's none better than strength and conditioning coach Jonathan Chainberg, and he joins me as I face off against him. Great to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Good to see you too.
You have an incredible career path. World-class wrestler on the Canadian level. Things change. There's an accident. I had a chance of following your story. It's quite the story. Talk to us about how you got involved in APC and strength and conditioning.
Well, I started off, like you said, as a wrestler. I like the one-on-one aspect of competing. I used to compete in different sports, but I was drawn to wrestling. I had a few concussions, too many, and during one of the breaks of actually not being able to do anything, I just started getting into training people. I was already in Concordia with the exercise science program, and I started training people in the break. I started training some of the wrestlers on the team just as a spare hobby, and it got more advanced. I started training the national team, some Olympians, some gold medalists, and from there I found George through the wrestling club. Started training him.
George St. Pierre, might I add.
Yeah, George St. Pierre. Started training a lot of guys associated with mixed martial arts through George, Rashad Evans, Nate Marquardt, those guys. And through hockey, through tennis, I have all-stars in baseball. So it was a nice transition. All the while I was still training my regular clientele, so it worked well.
You talk about, in one of the interviews I had a chance of reading, following up with you, you talk about the athlete gene. It's something very particular, and some have it, some don't. Talk to us about that.
Some people like to play sports, but it's a different thing between playing and competing. Having that natural level of competition, that ego that you need to take it to the next level, just that selfishness you need to be able to put yourself before everybody else when it comes to training, competing, performing. So athletes know how to push themselves by themselves. They don't need anybody around them. They can really push themselves. Mm-hmm. They compete differently. They train differently. It's not a fun thing for them. They're doing it as a job, number one, but they're competing, number two, and having fun, number two.
Talked about ego with regards to some of these athletes. Some of them, sure, are trained, they're athletes, they're professionals, but I'm sure you've come across a couple of guys who are stubborn as hell to try and get them to do something. Do you feel that the ego plays into it with professional athletes? The higher you go up in ranking and status of these athletes, you've worked with Christopher Letang, you've worked with Trish Stratus, to name a few. You feel that the ego plays into it when they come into your gym? Do they think that they'll have a new secret formula and they won't be broken down by you and your ways? It's
different because the higher athlete I've trained, I mean, Christopher Letang is a multiple-time All-Star. Russell Martin was an All-Star. George St. Pierre was probably one of the greatest mixed martial artists ever. Rory McDonald. These are the most humble guys. They're the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who don't give you lip back.
Complain.
They actually do what they have to do. They might complain jokingly here or there, but they'll always train the hardest. They're the ones who self-motivate themselves. So they're the people you have the least amount of problems with. Because
of their work ethic and how they've trained themselves, etc. George obviously is a whole different beast, and I'm sure you're asked this all the time, and it's a fair reason because he's that much of a special athlete. A lot of people compare him to Michael Phelps in the sense of his strength and conditioning, his body being built for his respective sport. Do you think that it's more than just that? Do you think that this is a natural gift that's been given to him, or has he really worked at it harder than anybody else you've seen come through that gym?
I think it's definitely a combination. I mean, I've told everybody that when you have an athlete special like George, like Floyd Mayweather, these guys can take a different path as long as they're training hard and practicing their respective sports and still be world champions. That's how good they are. That's how hard they work. So George has put in so much volume, no matter what he does. Floyd Mayweather the same way, is that they're going to succeed no matter what. But it just so happens that they push themselves harder than anybody in every single practice they do. They won't miss practice. I know people who've come to Montreal to try and keep up with George. George could be going out every night of the week, even if he can't sleep. He's there in the gym the next morning, no matter when the practice is being called for, and nobody can hang with him. The amount of volume and workload he puts in is different than any other athlete.
I want to talk to you real quick about the evolution of strength and conditioning. I'm sure it's changed over the years, and you've been a pioneer of that, one of the main reasons why it's changed. Where do you see the biggest changes? Are we talking more on the strength standpoint? Is it more on the conditioning? Is it more the awareness? Do athletes now believe in it? Do they see the benefit of it?
It's a combination of everything, but just the fact that we're getting away from the old school way of training. Athletes are coming up, they're training with Olympians, with professional, let's say a coach that trains a lot of football players. Anyways, not so much the boxing mixed martial arts training where it was long distance running, not a lot of weights, being scared to do weights because you didn't want to be stiff. But now they're working their power, they're doing a lot of Olympic lifts, med ball work, they're pushing sleds, stuff you've never seen before in the old days. So it's progressed, and what's happening is now is coaches are getting smarter, they're educating themselves, so you don't see as much problem when it comes to overtraining. They're just well aware of diet. It's a complex industry, but at least the coaches are starting to catch up now and school themselves on what it takes to build a champion.
Well, speaking of building champions, you've got quite a few of those over at APC. Talk to us a little bit about where we can catch you and some of this fun stuff that you're involved with, including the gym. Where can people catch some more information about you? Adrenaline
Performance Center. It's apcgym.com. You can come train alongside the Christopher Lestangs, Roy McDonald, Jean Pascal's. Anybody who's anybody when it comes to performing in Montreal should be at this gym. And any other client who wants to come, just get better, get in shape, lose weight, gain strength, gain mass, whatever you want, we have it for you there.
All right, we're going to have a little bit of fun with you as always on our rapid fire segment. We always like to ask you a few questions. You just tell me what you think. First thing that comes to mind. You ready to go?
Let's go.
Hardest working athlete you've ever worked with?
George St. Pierre.
What's the deal with mashed potatoes and cinnamon? What's up with that?
I love mashed potatoes as a meal, and cinnamon, I eat it on everything.
What athlete would you not want to run into in a dark alley?
Shane Carwin.
What's the craziest injury you've ever seen in training, most out of the ordinary?
Broken toe.
If I had an Egg McMuffin and a hash brown this morning, what would you make me do in the gym this afternoon?
Something that would make you throw up that Egg McMuffin and hash brown.
What's the one thing that drives you absolutely crazily with athletes that they do in the gym?
Take too many breaks.
And last but not least, how long would it take you to whip me into shape?
Not too long. Give me 2 months.
I got a compliment for John Chamberg. Thanks for taking the time. Great to see you. Stay with us. The rant is up next. You don't want to go anywhere. This week, courtesy of Tilmar.ca, we're going to take a look at the ever-controversial playoff format of the NFL. Right now, all of the NFL division winners, plus the next two best records in the conference, in other words known as the wildcard teams, make the playoffs and earn a chance to compete for the Lombardi Trophy. People claim they want to see the best teams compete, and not the lucky winners of the NFL's random divisional groupings. All we've heard recently from many onlookers is that no one from the NFC South should make the playoffs this season with a potential final record of under 500. The 5-7 Atlanta Falcons are ahead of the Saints due to their thrilling Week 1 victory over their rivals. The same sentiment was expressed for many years when referring to the forgettable history, to be kind, of the NFC West. The NFL is all about big plays and big moments, and those who come in rivalry games. Rivalry games created by divisional matchups. First of all, in 2010, the 7-9 West-winning Seahawks beat the top-seeded Saints in a game remembered for the grand unveiling of Beast Mode. And what's better than the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles duking it out for the NFC East crown in December? The recipe is great because no matter what else happens outside those 4 games, if you take care of your own, you give yourself a chance. Another example would be primetime games. Only one Thursday night football game this year isn't a divisional game, and that's because 2 bottom-feeding franchises can make for a competitive matchup. Everybody knows that when the Ravens and Steelers face off, you could throw all the stats out the window and every play counts. Most importantly, the last time the league got together, it was made and decided that no changes to the playoffs would occur this season as owners were very comfortable with their current structure. But of course, Roger Goodell hinted toward the potential approval for expansion by adding 1 team in each conference to the playoffs for the 2015 season. Is this really the best way to determine who deserves a shot at the Super Bowl glory? Or is adding another team on each side just another ploy to generate more revenue? Once again, we're asking you to read between the lines. Until next week, on behalf of the entire team, I'm Adam Reid. Thanks for being with us.